Welcome back to Yes, She May. Today, Mei sits down with Lilly Minkove, a retail expert and female founder behind strategy group ArtLogica.
It's so good to see you, Lilly. It's been such a long time.
It's great to see you again, Mei. You look great.
Oh, you know, we definitely try to eat healthy, even though it's hard. But when you sent me the report in May of your consumer research, I'm sorry I didn't get back to you, but it was so interesting and it's a lot of data. What prompted you to conduct that research?
Well, as you know, Mei, a lot of my work is brand strategy based on consumer insights, and I was hearing from a lot of my clients that they didn't know what was happening within the consumer mindset. And honestly, I was getting a lot of really tone-deaf emails from brands saying, buy this at 50% off. And I'm thinking, you know, we're all coming through this unprecedented pandemic. Your message is completely just going to delete and unsubscribe. So I thought, you know, there's such an opportunity for me as a brand marketer and a consumer insight strategist to give back during this time. So that's why I did this pro bono study to help them understand the consumer mindset and what the implications may be.
Indeed, if I get something like that in my mailbox, I would not even buy, even if it's 70% off. Who needs another pair of evening shoes when I don't have any need for them?
Absolutely. So that's why I thought it was so important to really get into the consumer mindset of, you know, most people were staying at home. We had, you know, over 90% of consumers were staying at home and social distancing. And I wanted to lay out the backdrop of what are these consumers doing? How are they feeling? And what is their financial and mental health state to really help brands understand what the consumer is who they're talking to and what they should be communicating about rather than sale and discounts.
Interesting. And you have a lot of data that it paints very complex pictures. I find it very helpful to really read even one page of your report. So do you mind giving us some breakdown of what you learned?
Sure. I think the number one thing that came out was that most consumers are concerned about uncertainty and the lack of connection. Over 50% of customers said that was the number one concern. We all didn't know what was going to happen because this has never happened before in our world, this unprecedented pandemic. So I think one of the most important insights that came out was that the seeking of connection and building of relationships, that consumers are rebuilding relationships with their household that they're isolating with, but also seeking connection with folks that they can't physically connect to. Hence, you know, a lot of this behavior of Zoom cocktail hours and new virtual events that has blossomed in our world.
Thank goodness for Zoom.
Absolutely, and all the other tools that have come out.
Right. And I have to say that I didn't imagine Zoom cocktail would be so popular, but now I do one with my girlfriends every week on Tuesday, rain or shine, obviously. It worked.
Same for me. I find that now I have a bi-weekly cocktail with my college friends who live all over the world, and it actually allows us to connect with people that we wouldn't have in the past.
Exactly.
So in that mindset, I think the other thing important to know is the financial point of view for consumers. As we heard from today's unemployment numbers, we have over 40 million Americans who are unemployed, and from the report, the finding is that the most financially insecure group are actually millennials, 18 to 34-year-olds. Over 51% of millennials are worried about their next rent or mortgage payment, compared to 12% of those age 55 plus.
Which is the boomers.
Absolutely. So if you think about millennials as a really a group that is growing in their careers, they're establishing themselves in the world. A lot of them are now reconsidering what is my current career opportunity. If I've lost my job or have been furloughed, what will I do next? What does the world look like? And remember, this group also came of age in 2008.
They got hit twice.
Absolutely. So it's interesting for brands because millennials have been such a coveted group of consumers
Right.
all throughout the last decade.
Because of their size too, right?
Because of their size and the way that they think. And so and it's interesting to think about how brands should be targeting going forward and what messages they should be giving to millennials versus boomers who might be feeling a lot more secure.
That's very interesting. And one of the things that millennials are also their parents. So has there been any particular sort of insight into the gender differences or the roles that parents play, and how do they come out of this so far in terms of how satisfied they are with what's happening?
There are two separate insights that we had regarding parents and women in particular. So I'll start with the parenting one. Obviously, parents of young children and school-age children have been hit so hard during this time.
I can't imagine you.
Personally,
Trying to imagine you doing the report probably when they're sleeping, and then during the day you have to be really watching them.
So parents are definitely doing double duty,
Right.
trying to become teacher, house cleaner, cook, full-time
yes.
worker, as
Yes.
well as just home manager all in one.
Right.
So we definitely see that parents of school-age children are very stressed during this time, having to wear all these hats. But at the same time, fascinatingly, they're reporting better relationships with their family as well because they're spending so much quality time.
Right, and the children feel that for the first time they are almost like roommates now, right? So there's things that they usually don't tell us. Now they're ready to tell us. I agree. I think we spend more time watching movies together, cooking together. Myself and my kids are older, but I can see they have more time on their hands for sure.
And I think it's actually a return to the childhood that we probably had when you go out and play on the street for hours and there's not these structured sports activities and extracurriculars.
The play dates, remember?
Exactly.
The play dates
So
are the hard ones.
The unstructured time, I think, is actually such a gift.
Right, it is.
So your second question, Mei, about women in particular, what we're finding is that women, we've always had, especially female parents, have this greater mental load of figuring out the grocery list, figuring out the extracurricular activities, and now that we're all at home with the entire household, it has become an even bigger strain.
Right.
So we find that women have reported much more significant mental health strain compared to men.
Right.
In particular, that they see themselves doing a greater proportion of the housework and home management and child management compared to men, but also being concerned about their mental health.
Right. I read somewhere that women more than men seems to be also losing jobs earlier at this pandemic than their husbands. And I wonder if that has to do with their mental well-being as well, being concerned about jobs and the security of jobs.
Sure, I'm also actually a member of a lot of working mom and moms in technology groups on social media, and I actually also see women stepping down from their jobs proactively because they cannot handle the stress.
Right. No, that's one of the things we have seen, with women business owners. We have seen them not able to sometimes fill their orders or have to lay off more people, so they end up taking up even more responsibility for their work because they laid off people that they can't afford to hire anymore. So these are absolutely times that are very challenging for both men and women. In the case of families, that seems to be the trend, that women are taking more family responsibilities.
And I actually hear that from an employer perspective also, on a tangent, that employers are actually frustrated because if their employees are not able to work during the day, they end up working in the evening.
Right.
Therefore, their coworkers who don't have kids then also have to work more in the evening to be able to match those
very
schedules.
long hours, right? Particularly now with Zoom, they know you're home. You can't say you can't have that meeting. I can see the stress level. So what do we do with all the stress for women?
So I think, given the stress, the self-care and actually acknowledging this increased burden on the behalf of employers is extremely important. I think brands and employers that acknowledge that women are feeling this increased strain, that all their employees who are parents or have other responsibilities of taking care of elderly parents may also be feeling, there has to be a plan in place for that. Of providing whether more flexible leave options or more flexible work hours and accommodating that in a completely different way. And I think also this importance of reinforcing the ability to have self-care, whether that be more formal therapy. I know a lot of workplaces are offering family therapy during this time, or also just simply ways, reminding them to take care of themselves in small ways, to find the joy in the everyday things.
Right. So these are very interesting sort of shift mentally. What are the behavior changes that come with those shifts?
That's a great question, Mei. I mean, first of all, it's all revolving around your home and really your kitchen.
Right.
I mean, we have all been baking more, cooking more. For the first few weeks, we didn't even order takeout because you had to disinfect every container that came in.
Right.
So I think while things are shifting a bit more to reality, I think that focus on cooking at home and eating together as a family is much more important. As consumers spend more time in their homes, they're also seeing all the opportunities to do small home improvement projects or beautify their home office. Areas of their home that may have been neglected in the past are now getting a lot of enhancements. So you see companies like Wayfair doing significantly better because they are benefiting from this home decor, nesting phenomenon.
Trend. Yes, I heard people starting to buy seeds and plant, trying to grow their own vegetables. So behavior-wise, that's a welcome change for people in the home business. But what do you think about fashion?
So that's an interesting area. I think that in fashion, it has been a shift for a lot of companies to focus more on loungewear or pajamas. I was listening to a podcast about LaFleur, which is traditionally a professional women's wear brand that is shifting their product assortment to be focusing on, wear at home outfits that are easy to clean, easy to take care of, but also look polished.
Very polished, right? For the Zoom meetings, right?
Yes.
You want to look. You're not just rolling out of bed and put on your smile. But beyond that, what are some of the longer-term shifts from the behavior perspective that you feel consumer industry should take notice?
I think there's a lot of a bigger focus on quality versus quantity. I think in the past it may be, I'm going to buy a lot of fast fashion. And I think this was happening anyway because of sustainability and a greater purpose behind fashion, which the industry is getting behind. But I think this in particular really made it feel, consumers are feeling, what is something I really need that's going to make me feel great rather than necessarily look good for someone else.
For a moment,
yes,
or one Instagram post. Then what do I do with all these things that I acquired?
Yes, so I think consumers are looking at things what do they really want to make themselves feel good from a fashion perspective, but also what are quality. And I think actually I've also heard that a lot of the rental and secondhand and these alternative models in fashion are growing more rapidly during this time. Companies like Stitch Fix are seeing increases in their subscription base because it's a different way to experiment and discover without leaving your home.
Right, and this whole idea of e-commerce, which obviously we happen to land ourselves launching our e-commerce business in the middle of the pandemic, also because of that reason. A lot of times I feel, Asian countries actually lead the way in the new iterations of e-commerce. We've seen live streaming as a way of getting people to get excited about something. Do you see that being a trend here in the near future? Because obviously video, TikTok is doing well, but Are they ready to connect, entertaining, social, and commerce together?
I think it's definitely coming. I think a similar version of that are probably more of the influencer videos. They're not live streamed, but they are kind of historically, that's where consumers are getting their fashion information.
Right.
And I think the fact that now Zoom and these live events are getting so much more traction, I definitely see that gaining ground in the US. I haven't seen any great examples of specific brands doing it, but for example, my friend had a book fair online. So it was a lot of parents getting together and someone recommending these are the books you should be buying for your children during this time.
Yes.
And I could totally see that translating for fashion among a group of friends.
Right.
And
it's
getting
almost
that
like
excitement.
a show, right? Like a trunk show at someone's home versus actually going to someone's home.
Exactly. And you see the fashion brands adopting this with virtual fashion shows as well. So imagine those combined with a watch party with a group of friends and commenting on each item together.
Right.
That creates that community as well as the aspiration.
Right, and that's a very interesting behavior change. We've also obviously have to grapple with the fact that the social distancing means a lot of the trying of clothing, for example, is so difficult. Or imagine trying lipsticks on and face creams. How do you think brands that rely on those in-person experience to turn around and live this new world?
I think the brands have been really creative to be able to, some recreate the experience at home with virtual styling sessions and having someone show them the product. Some brands like LaFleur have also done this, and some department stores as well of virtual styling sessions, and then be able to send those products to your home to try on. Also other retailers like Best Buy doing in-store appointments but with social distancing in place and one-on-one consultations, actually using that consultative sale to their advantage to be able to help customers. So I think this is really necessity is the mother of invention, and brands as well as retailers have created lots of interesting ways to be able to do this.
Indeed, Lily, the last couple of months when we do buy things, I realized I was buying things that are mostly, for me, I'm making a statement. I'm supporting someone, either because my children don't want to drink water from a bottled water anymore because they think that plastic is choking the fish around the world, or when I buy, I want to make sure that it's going to be a company with a more sustainable perspective. And even as a brand on the website, we are looking for African American owned brands because this is a way to truly support the community, in my view. Have you seen any shift in consumer behavior relates to who they want to support?
Absolutely, Mei. I know the purpose-driven brands have really been growing in the past few years already, but I think this pandemic has really elevated the degree to which people are being aware of these things. So as a related note, during the COVID pandemic, almost 70% of people said they did something to help someone in their community or a nonprofit organization or just another individual. So the whole idea that consumers at this time really want to give back. And when they spend their dollars, whether it be at the restaurant or at the coffee shop or with a clothing brand, they want to know what they're supporting. So more than ever, consumers care about the purpose of a brand. And now we have heard so much about Black Lives Matter and equality among gender and LGBTQ community, as well as sustainability and environmental awareness. I think brands really need to know what they stand for and their why. Not that this is another beautiful vase or a lovely shirt, but why, how was it produced, why was it produced, and what does the company stand for from a human perspective. I think during the past few months, I've gotten so many emails from the founders and CEOs of the different brands that I subscribe to, telling us, this is how we're reacting, this is what we're doing with our employees, this is how we're treating our suppliers. And I think consumers are listening, and they really do care what the brand purpose is and how they live that purpose.
Exactly. It's not just lip service, but how do you use your action? And so the authenticity and the transparency with which they're conducting their business is becoming increasingly important.
Absolutely.
So it's for me, that's a great shift from just focusing on the what, it's the why we buy things. So it's a lot of shift and a lot of behavior changes. Have you seen any changes since May after you finished the first report?
I think consumers are definitely opening back up, and as we enter phase 2 in a lot of communities, consumers are antsy. They want to get out of their homes, but there is still a lot of financial insecurities, as we saw from the jobs numbers. So I am actually conducting a second round COVID recovery survey to help understand what will make consumers comfortable going to the shopping mall, going to a movie theater, and being at a restaurant or other public facility. When will they feel comfortable going to large events like sporting games or large conferences?
Or school.
Or even schools.
Right,
so
universities.
I think all of that is based on consumer sentiment. We may, restaurants probably want to open up, but does it make sense for them financially if consumers are not willing to go?
Exactly.
So giving an insight into that for these businesses as they start to reopen and how to guide some of those protocols will be really important.
I can't wait. I have to say, unfortunately, the numbers are not great in terms of case number. Which means that we will continually be in this uncertainty for a longer period of time, potentially to the end of the year. Mm-hmm. And I'm also certain that companies like ourselves would like to get guidance and be able to deliver to consumers what can make them feel more confident. Going back to your first comment about the uncertainty of the situation, makes them very uncertain and stressful. It's a stressful situation. So I think you did a wonderful job with sharing this, and I would love to share some of the highlights with our women vendors. As you know, some of them are in the U.S., but a lot of them are not. And serving this market has always been a challenge for them. It can't be more challenging than now.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to share the findings and to talk to you, Mei. It's always a pleasure to chat, and I always enjoy our interactions. So
excellent. Let's hope that our audience and the consumers that are listening can also find some cues of what we just mentioned, and hopefully now we are better prepared for what's to come. And thank you.
My pleasure.
If you enjoyed today's video, please give us a like and subscribe to our channel. And let us know, has the pandemic affected your business in any way? How have you had to pivot your business since COVID? Leave us a comment below.
I think it's wonderful that we can get it done without a lot of delay.